And it worked until it didn't work. And it didn't work in 2006 and 2007. And we had a real rate that was so high, not mathematically, but so high, that it broke the U.S. economy, the housing market, and the global economy. So it was this combination of a real rate and the levered structure globally, financially, housing, shadow banks, all dependent upon a low real rate. It was a real rate of only 1% in 2007 that broke the global financial markets that led to the Great Recession. A 1% real rate, because the Fed went to 5.25, inflation was 4.5. It was only 1% real, and they cracked the economy. So that alone, I guess, tells me that to return to a 2% real policy rate, which is what Taylor embeds and what the Fed believes in terms of their models, would be to dice with another Lehman-like disaster. This economy is still 350% of GDP, debt to GDP. It's still as levered, although, to be fair, the leverage has shifted from households to the government, and it's safer there than on household balance sheets. But we're still a highly levered economy, and so are other global economies. And this 1% rate in 2007 actually broke the economy. Let me continue. What other evidence do we have as to what the real rate would be? Well, there's a study by the San Francisco Fed in 2001, when Janet Yellen was president there, by two gentlemen by the name of Laubach and Williams. And they did research on the real rate and how it changes and so on, and they've updated their model all the way until the end of 2013. Their information, it comes from the Fed, says that the real interest rate should be a minus 25 basis points, not 2%, which is what the market and Fed participants expect it to be. And other research as well. Rogoff and Reinhart. I love Rogoff and Reinhart. Talk about research. You can get lost there for weeks at a time, and not necessarily that it's right, but it's good research, and sometimes it's criticized and sometimes it's wrong. But basically, what they showed was that since the last Great Depression in 1935, that real interest rates in the U.S. and the U.K. up until Volcker in '79 were a minus 25 basis points in the U.S. and a minus 1% for the UK. And so all of these examples say that in a levered economy, which is the critical element, which is what the Fed, in my mind, can't build into their model. This is a subjective Red Queen type of situation in which you don't know, you can't model. And so the Fed doesn't want to go there. They want to gradually think that maybe things might change gradually. But a 2% real rate is far too high in a levered economy. Okay, I get a few more minutes. I guess my point is that if the new neutral is closer to 0, the real one, which is what PIMCO expects, as opposed to 2, then asset prices, remember the connection to asset prices, that asset prices are less bubbly, that stocks at 16 to 17 times PEs can survive a mild bubble atmosphere with a 0% real rate. They can't survive a 2% real rate. We saw what happened in 2007. Same thing with credit spreads. Narrow, very narrow. Artificially priced, very artificially priced. Avoid only if you think the real rate, the new neutral real rate, is going to be 2 or close to 2 as opposed to 0. At 0, things make sense, and it just depends upon whether the Fed and other central banks proceed along the expected path or whether they stop short, based upon what PIMCO thinks is their ultimate destination. So the new neutral is critical. Think about it yourselves. Is it 2? Is it 0? What should it be? And you can get into bonds with forward prices and forward yields, and you can get into stocks with PEs and all of that based upon what exactly that rate is going to be. And it influences volatility too. The lower the rate, the less volatile markets, and the VIX stays at 12, and Treasury volatility stays at 60% normalized, et cetera, et cetera. At 2%, you've got bear markets ahead. So hopefully the Fed knows what it's doing as it proceeds along.